Dave, welcome to the basketball podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Long overdue to have you on, and another great season on the go for you. And we can go so many places talking about your program success and the way you built your program, the way you coach your program. But I want to just highlight one thing because I saw you guys play this year, and you're one of the first teams I saw icing ball screens on one side and doing something different on the other side of the floor in high school. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, uniquely, especially in the fall, we'll play with concepts and ideas just as far as, hey, on this side, we're going to do this, and on that side. And actually, at USA Basketball this past fall, I was part of the beauty of it is not just coaching these unbelievable players, but you're around these unbelievable coaches and minds. And I was talking with a coach, Rob Brost, who was like, yeah, our schematics are we ice on the left, we're through on the right, and then in the middle third, we're just forcing weak. And so I just said to myself, let's play with it. And we've had all three packages in our defensive repertoire, but it was something we've been playing with, and it's been pretty cool. I think at first it was our guys were like, too much thinking, but now it's no, this is what we're doing. And so it's been unique and fun, and I've enjoyed seeing our guys are adjust to it, and it's been pretty cool.
Was cool because obviously you're playing against semi-organized or disorganized teams at Border League too. So some of them were like having a hard time, which was fun to see because it speaks to the value of what you do, which is you run a serious program where you put effort in and it's very detailed oriented. Can you talk to us about that fact in particular, the details?
Yeah, Chris, when I left the University of San Francisco and got hired at Harvard-Westlake, the thing that fueled me and created my vision was I was going to make sure that our guys were prepared to play in a college environment. Whatever level, they were going to be prepared. They were going to understand discipline, character, work ethic. They were going to understand how to function within a program, and they were going to do certain characteristics that I thought were behooved and or valued at the college level. And my reasoning was like, if we can do that at the high school level, we're gonna have a chance to win. But if we're doing it at the high school level, that only enhances our guys as they head to the next level. And that's been the formula. Nothing too spectacular. Hey, let's be great at every little thing. And there's a lot of little things. And it can be overwhelming, especially in this day and age where you come from middle school environments where you're so highly touted. And then I'm telling you, you can't close out and you don't even know what jump to the ball means. And you're like, no, I can score. Yeah. So can everybody else here. And then when you go to the next level, they do it at an even higher level and a higher clip. So I just think creating that environment where you're seeing big picture and you're process oriented was critical for us. And that's kind of been the staple of our program.
What you just said is a great segue into the fact that, look, you've had five-star players. You have a five-star player. And what stands out from watching your team play, and it's very noticeable, is how well those talented players blend in with the team and vice versa.
Yeah.
Is it's just a beautiful thing to be able to watch. And I think that's a struggle for a lot of high school coaches dealing with a really talented player. So talk to us about how you've been able to achieve that over the years.
There's a harsh reality. The terms with which you get a player are typically the terms with which they leave, right? And I don't believe that you can build and run a functional program and team while making ridiculous promises and creating a level of entitlement. And I think that's the disconnect, Chris, in my opinion. Trent Perry, Nick Amenya, Brady Dunlap, Jacob Huggins, Johnny Juzang, none of them were promised anything. They were told, come work and get better. And we created an environment where we have the resource between the weight room, strength and conditioning program, coaches on staff, availability, gym availability, access. You have to get better. What more do you want? Like, I'm going to coach you to in a high functioning college program that'll enhance your skill set and showcase you while being very demanding on the defensive end and demanding on playing quality basketball. And you're going to get better. And then from there, the sky's the limit. And I think that has been our process with our better players. And that's why you see a Nick Amenya like Nick Amenya came in as a freshman, and I just saw his feel and his work ethic and his fearlessness, and I'm like, ooh, this kid's going to be special. But he probably played 8 minutes a game as a freshman for us. Trent Perry, Robert Hinton, as freshmen, you're like, Robert, you get him the ball in the open court, and it's goodbye. But then there were so many other facets to the game that he needed to learn. And you know what? His parents, hey, He's struggling with this? Yeah, he's struggling with it. Okay, keep coaching him, coach. Trent Perry, I tell this story, and this is one of my favorite stories of all time. His freshman year, he had some decent minutes and he had a couple big games, and you're seeing, ooh, he's going to be really good. But Trent Perry enrolled at Harvard-Westlake as a seventh grader. So it's not, if I could predict that he was going to be a McDonald's All-American by his senior year, I'd play the lotto way more often. Chris, we wouldn't be talking basketball. I'd be on a beach somewhere kicking my feet up. So he worked and we created a plan. But his sophomore year, like, we had made the decision, here are the keys. You're going to be the guy. And I feel like with you as the guy, we're going to have a chance with this group to shock some people with the talented group that we had. And that was Brady Dunlap's junior year, Cam Thrower's senior year, Landon Lewis, Jacob Huggins. Nick was a freshman that year. And we had Robert Hinton was a sophomore. We had a really talented team, Christian Ori. And I handed him the keys in the summer, and he took them. And then we got into the fall, and you just saw his practice habits decline a little bit. And I remember talking to him, watch film, talk to him, watch film, talk to dad and mom. Hey, he's got to practice harder. This is important to me. This is a non-negotiable. And we get into the season, and I'm seeing the same stuff, and we're winning, but I'm not sleeping well because I know where we're trying to go. And I pulled him from the starting lineup. I never called mom and dad. I talked to the kid. I said, hey, you're not starting anymore. You're going to come off the bench. We had another guard who was just a floor general, and he worked every day. And his name was Dante Russell. He's a stud. And so Dante was starting. And then I saw Trent's practice habits pick up for a little bit, but he didn't get the starting spot back right away. And they went back down. And so I remember we were going to a league game. I think we were going to Alemany or something. And I was like, you know what? I got to make a statement today. And so typically Trent was our sixth man off the bench. Probably put him in as the 11th guy in the second quarter. And I could see his body language was bad. And after the game, I passed Dad in the hallway. I'm, oh boy, here we go. And Dad goes, still not practicing hard? I go, no. He goes, Coach, have a great night. And that's when Trent Perry had a chance to be great. When nobody was going to bail him out, there was no entitlement. It was like, you're not doing your job. And that's the real world. And that's real life. And when those two things connect, you got a chance at greatness, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Like, we all need talent. I'm not, but what's talent without work ethic, character, toughness, discipline? It's nothing. So I think the connecting of dots for those two things is huge and critical. And that's what I think we've done our best with, because when you do that and the terms with which you do it usually dictate your success and the player's success.
And what speaks so loudly about that story about Trent Perry is obviously the people around him supporting that. And that seems to be a lot of the disconnect nowadays, is this instant success, instant, I guess, rewards for being good. And it's no, you still got to earn it every single day.
It's the reality that, like, in not creating accountability, you're only setting them up for failure. In not creating a standard, there's no way you could be your best self. And at the next level, where the talent level is right there and everybody's equal, that's part of the job. And I think sometimes that gets lost because of the hustle and bustle. But I do think it's a reality. If you look at the last few years of championship teams, there's a hefty sense of camaraderie, cohesion, and togetherness that you're seeing from Josh Giles' Corona Centennial teams, our teams the last few years. It resonates. And I think even into the college ranks, it resonates, and it shows. There's so much parity because there's disconnect. Like, transfers are great, and I get it. Everybody wants to get older and more talented and bigger, stronger. Chemistry, character, accountability, those need to be factored into winning because they matter.
They absolutely matter. And for coaches listening, it's easy to dismiss a lot of this and say you're at Harvard-Westlake. But I think that's the point. You're at Harvard-Westlake and you don't have five stars, and you don't necessarily do that. That's not how you run this program. And I've seen you compete against teams that have 5 stars or 4 stars or 3 stars, and you compete just fine. So talk to us about the players around the 5 stars and developing their roles and their understanding of how they can be the best version of themselves.
I mean, for everybody listening, I've been at Harvard-Westlake for 10 years, and we've had 2 transfers. So that means everybody's admission points are 7th grade or 9th grade. And I would put our emphasis on player development as the number one thing we do and prioritize above and beyond everything else. Now, hey, is this one of the best schools in the country? Absolutely. But if you don't submit your application and do the things you need to do by January, whatever, you're not getting in. It doesn't matter if you're 7'2" and you're a pro or like that is the reality. And so I just
And
thought
you
it was
did this at El Camino before, so it's something that's traveled.
correct. And so I think that's really important. The harsh reality is that we have really talented players around the 5-star guys. And in order for it to work, there is a level of understanding that has to take place, a level of sacrifice for everybody, right? Could Nick Jimenez shot the ball 20 times last year? Yeah, of course. But he had Robert Hinton, Trent Perry, Christian Ori, Amir Jones, Isaiah Carroll, Don Bentho. Like, he had really good players around him. And that's not who he is. Nick is I'm going to play the right way and play great basketball. And I'm a winner. And so be that, right? And let's enhance that. But hey, Nick, we got to get your 3-point percentage up. We got to work on this. Finishing is a priority. Free throw shoot. And by the way, you do have to start doing this. A perfect example is Amir Jones and Joe Sterling. Those two guys, Joe Sterling transferred in from Crespi, one of the most talented scorers I've coached. Gifted, incredibly gifted. And him and Amir, and I think at times they see Nick and they're like, Nick, and it's no. In order for Nick to be great, you have to be you and be that best version of you. And so we are constantly encouraging guys to do things. We played a pretty big game last week, and teams switched and threw a wrinkle at us that we hadn't seen in a while. And our bigs let them off the hook by not sealing, posting, and doing certain things. So for the last 4 days, you would have thought we were in North Carolina just trying to throw the ball inside the North Carolinas of old and the Kansas of old. We're just working on sealing, posting, post entries, and creating those advantage plays for those guys because it's all connected. We need all of our guys to be factors, aggressive, engaged, and assertive so that everybody else can do their job. And so I think that's why we found success. And I think that's why there's a willingness to buy in because we don't just make it about one side of the coin here. It's both sides, and both sides have to be great. If Nick is being doubled in whatever capacity, like Nick is expected not to throw the great pass, but the hockey pass that leads to the assist, that leads to a great play or whatever the case may be. And so I think that level of understanding and communication is critical to getting the buy-in. And I think that's what we try and really emphasize and do, while also creating an understanding like, so what if you're not him? You're you. And there's a place for you, and we need you to be great. And then guess what? When that guy graduates, we need you to take another step. And here's the step, and here's the direction. So I think it's creating a light at the end of the tunnel, continuing to be demanding, and creating a level of balance that there's understanding.
Love that. And you mentioned player development as a huge piece of this. So give us some of the details. What does that actually look like from a day-to-day basis, player development within your program?
So the uniqueness of our school is that the students create their own schedules, right? And so within that, like there may be days where a guy doesn't start till 9. Hey, he's texting a coach like, "Hey, can I get in the gym? Can I get?" And this is throughout the year, right? In the off season, you're talking about 4 to 5 days a week getting with a coach and working on a specific skill set. So you're doing all of that on top of we're very strategic about our usage of practice and it's very seasonal. So we're going to finish the winter season and come April, we'll start going 2 days a week. 1 day a week will be dedicated to defensive principles and fundamentals that we value that we're going to try and emphasize and enhance. Within that, we'll play some 2-on-2, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 games. And in doing that, we're creating situational basketball to some degree with some free-flowing read and react principles to enhance our defense. The next day will be like an offensive day. So we'll do some skill development just for a little bit because we know our guys are doing skill development outside. And then we'll start to tinker with concepts of offense and read and react concepts within our personnel. So we know, hey, we're going to be big. So we may be a get, ball screen, pin down type of team, cross screen. So let's start tinkering with those things in a 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4 setting, 1 dribble, 2 dribble, no dribble. And now we're just enhancing movement principles. read and react principles, and just general understanding. So while doing that, those components of the individual and then the team continue. Where I think we excel is our weight room and strength and conditioning program and our training room. We've got two full-time guys in there that I think take our guys to a whole new level from their ability to change their bodies, enhance their athleticism, injury prevention, and then mobility. So I think the combination of all that and the plan in place really enhances. But now, like, we'll get into summer, and summer's like a 3-week period now, and we're just competing. You know what I mean? We're gonna play. We're gonna get up and down a lot. I'm gonna see what works, what doesn't. I'm throwing everything that I think, hey, this works, this works. Nope, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And when we're just playing, rarely is it like sets and finite concepts. It's just more like ideas and concepts that we think, hey, this could work, and let's play with this and that, because we're not really focused on winning games in the summer. We're focused on our team and our growth and kind of understanding. We put an emphasis on player development. Here's your chance to show us what we need to fix for our offense and our defense because you've developed. And that's the partnership that we try to create.
You've referenced this a few times, the tinkering part of coaching.
Yeah.
So it's not just player development, it's coach development as well,
Totally.
because you're trying some things and you're being brave in terms of let's throw this at the wall and see how it looks, right?
Totally. And the number one thing, I've hired a few assistants who were on other programs in the last few years that we've played, and they're like, man, you guys are a tough scout. And I was like, if your personnel, like our personnel is pretty clear. And now it's your sets and you change things up. And I go, oh, those aren't plays. Those are our guys just playing. And they'd even clip it up for me. Like, hey, what did you call this? And I was like, oh, that's just our guys hooping. Like they're just reading and reacting off each other. Like, I wish that was me. It's the stuff we've worked on, but that's not a play call. And I think that uniqueness kind of makes you hard to scout as well as you continue to do those things and throw things against the wall. It's hard and you are vulnerable at times, but I think it's part of the fun of coaching.
It's absolutely part of the fun. And then maybe take us a little bit deeper then. So you've tinkered around a little bit, you've thrown some stuff at the wall. Then how do you get them to play cohesively in this conceptual approach? What are the things that you emphasize? Are there principles of play? Are there different things that guide it? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So as we start to move forward, and so this is the next. So phase one is the spring where we're like, it's you time, be selfish, be you. Then we get into the summer, and now it's build our team. As we know, this 3-week period, 4-week period, we're going to get through. We know we're not really building our team, but we're going to get an understanding like, how does he learn? How does he understand? Where's he at? Where's he at? Okay. Did this look good? Did this work? And try to use film as a barometer for, hey, this did or didn't, because sometimes your eyes can fool you. Because you see it, you think you scored, but really it wasn't within the realm of good basketball. So then we'll use that, and then we'll head into the fall. And typically in the fall, we go 3 days a week of practice just to avoid burnout. There's a reality that I know myself, and I know that 4 or 5 days a week in September means they're done with me in January. And I am very self-aware. That level of intensity, discipline, focus needs to be controlled. And so we'll go 3 days a week in the fall, and we're developing. In that first month, we're not really playing games. We're just focused on us. Okay, we think these things work. Let's hammer them. Let's really drive these principles, concepts. Let's really start to do it. Hey, we think we're athletic. Let's really start to work on some pressures and some different things that we can manipulate on the defensive end. Then in October, we'll go play every other weekend, a game or two. And then you really start to get to see, okay, this works, this didn't. At that standpoint, by October, we're really starting to sit down with our guys individually and say, hey, look, here are, because we'll stat practices and we stat the fall league games. Here's where you're at. Here's what this looks like. Here are the things that we're putting a value on that you're struggling with or you're doing really well with. And I think look, it's hard. It's never easy. Nobody wants to hear that they're struggling, and everybody loves to hear that they're doing well. So how do you manage continuing to build on the well and building on the struggle? Those things are important. I think your staff is critical to that. We have an incredible staff who will assign in that month, in that period, we'll assign each coach 2 to 3 guys to watch film with and go over their stats. And then we mix it up again next month. We'll change it up so that they're hearing different voices and different trains of thought. And it's not even my voice yet. They're hearing my voice only 3 days a week in practice. And that's just, it's all by design, just trying to keep it fresh, create a level of understanding and just a desire to improve.
You have a plan and you follow the plan, and it seems simple, but we know how hard that actually is,
Yes.
especially given the competitive schedules. And we can get into that a little bit, but some of the schedules that your teams play and other teams play now are quite challenging, aren't they?
You've got programs traveling like NBA teams, play a game in New York, fly the next day to Vegas, play a game. It's insane.
It's
But some of this is being created due to our playoff system because getting home games is not like it used to be like, hey, we'll come to you if we're really good and you're okay and you're a potential D2, D3 team and you play us, you could skyrocket to D1 just off one game. It doesn't matter how much if you lost by 60. And if you have a good league, now it really impacts you. I do think it's become very unique, and I think this is something that as a whole probably needs to be addressed because it's not really healthy for high school age students to be traveling midweek during the school year, during the semester, the end of the semester when finals could be coming up, midterms, whatever, to go play a game and then fly back and then be getting hammered right away because they still have full days of school. This isn't where you're going and it's okay. I got one class today. I got two online classes. Like this is real high education. And I think that's important. But all that being said, we took 3 trips this year. We went to Salt Lake City for 2 games on a back-to-back in the snow, which was really cool, but tough. We actually, that was our first and only loss of the year. Timpview, who absolutely jumped on us and played an incredible game. We won our second game against Bartlett from Tennessee. And then we traveled to Palm Desert, played a couple games out there, and then went to Arizona for the Nike Tournament of Champions Hoop Ball Classic deal, which was awesome. And so those were our 3 trips. I try and not do more than three.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're moderate compared to some of them, I know. And
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
also you've referenced it, like the value of rest and recovery is that you're doing this in an intelligent way by intelligent design, that the
Yes,
breaks and stuff and recovery are built in a conscious way.
absolutely. So I actually get our full academic calendar before I start for next year, before I start our scheduling. It's just not fair to the kids, man. As much as we played in that Hoop Hall East a year ago on a Monday against Ace Bailey. Wednesday we had Notre Dame and Mercy Miller, and Friday we had Sierra Canyon at Sierra Canyon. You talk about death row. Whew! And so we literally went from Boston, flew back Tuesday, did a walk. Our kids all went to class Tuesday, did a walkthrough, played Wednesday, lost by 5. Thursday, we went for 30 minutes just trying to get something. Friday, we lost by 5. And then it was our first weekend off. And I just said to myself, hey, look, that event is an amazing event. It's the best showcase in the country, in my opinion. And it's hard to say no. And so I wouldn't have said no. I just don't know what I would have done differently. But it did lend me to thinking like, if we're going to do this and we're going to do it at the level we want to do it, I do need to be proactive about them, where they're mentally at, mentally and physically at, and just making sure that there's at least a conversation. Because I think it's a lot. It's a lot, and it wears on them. And we've got high achievers, kids that really care about the classroom. And despite what they may say, they do and they work. And it's something I just want to be conscious of for them.
And it's a great compliment and a great testament to the program that you've built that you have all these opportunities as well. So there's obviously a gratitude to it. Talk to us about the metrics beyond kind of wins and losses that you use to evaluate your program success.
Yeah, so a couple different things. You can always tell where your program's at based on the guys and their willingness to hang out with one another, do things on their own without it being coordinated, and then their matriculation, right? And we have touch points after summer. We all of our staffs get with different each level, right? Just to, hey, where are you at? How you feeling? What's going on? Cool. We get to the fall when that's our second touch point, like probably mid-October. Once we've established, hey, we understand who we are, where we're trying to go. We've had a few practices and a few games. Hey, talk to me. What's working? What's not working? What did you like? What did you like? Not. Hey, where do you see yourself? Like, how do you see yourself? And then at the end of the year is the last touch point. And something that we do that I have done the last 4 years that I think is really unique as far as program value. Our banquet is after our last league game. So whenever our last league game is, that's when we have our banquet. And now we don't get individual like the individual accolades and things like that. But I have found that the value on the lower levels is diminished when we go till March. Then it's spring break. Now we're back in April, and now you're having your banquet and your season ended January 30th. It just feels like it's a disconnect and you're not really a part of it. And so selfishly, I do it for our lower levels so that they know, hey, we valued you in your season, and here's how we valued you. And then, so then we finish all that and we get into the postseason, and we're very clear about, hey, this is where you're at. And we have a sheet that kind of shows games played, games missed, practices missed, lifts missed in comparison to the varsity guys, right? And where they're at. And then with that, we'll have some shooting percentages, some just rebounding percentages, and total plus minus. And now, granted, I won't always show them this, but if a kid's I'm like, hey, I'm a varsity guy, like I should start next year. Okay, well, let's talk about it. If another kid's, hey, coach, I know I'm probably not going to play, but I just want to be part of the program. But there's another reality to this. Harvard-Westlake's an elite school, and college is a big deal, right? And so we understand that sometimes maybe sitting on the bench versus trying to go be the editor of the school newspaper isn't in your best interest. And if that's something that's of interest, great. So I think it's just keeping an open mind about the reality of our current state of school, state of our system in trying to get to college and do the things that they want to do, but also creating a space where everyone knows they're valued and doing that equitably. It's not just after season, it's not just before the season. It's in the summer, it's before the season, it's after season. It's showing you that the banquet matters and you matter, and we're going to do this. And even though the varsity's not done, we're still going to do this. And just finding unique ways like that to, I think, keep our community enhanced.
Let's go deeper. Talk to us about the feeder program. Talk to us about how you integrate all the levels in terms of the program, because I think that's a big piece. And not every coach can do it exactly the same way, but it's definitely something that every coach should aspire to if you run a high school varsity program, right?
Totally, totally. I think the first things that we do is in our hiring process, I make it very clear, like your value is not predicated on wins and losses. It's matriculation and understanding. Are you teaching the things that we value? Are you following the guidelines set forth? If I'm spending 6 minutes a day on pivoting, are you? If I'm spending time on 2 foot layups, mic in, and the things that we value in our dynamic layup warm-ups and closeouts and all the things, are you? Or are you just putting in a million sets so you can win a game? So that's the first thing that we do. We really prioritize program development. Next, varsity coaches and myself in particular are going to practices for every level. And we're going to games when we can. We're sitting on the bench and we're coaching with the coaches so that they know. And everybody, the knock around us is like, how many coaches do you have, Rebibo? It's because we do that for them. Our lower level coaches want to sit on the varsity bench and be there for us. So it's our programs togetherness that I think creates this vertical matriculation into our program. Now, look, does everybody transfer up and translate and all that stuff? Of course not. There's a harsh reality that 15 years ago, you could look at somebody's JV team and be like, oh, they're going to be good in a year or two. Man, now it's everybody wants to play varsity. Everybody. So the idea that sometimes really talented freshmen and sophomores have to play JV is like a slap in the face. We don't view it that way. We view it as we're doing whatever's in your best interest and in your development. And I'll take Isaiah Carroll, who's a senior on our team this year, 6'6", 6'7" kid, super athletic. Isaiah was a baseball, basketball guy from elementary through middle school. And in 8th grade, he decided, I want to play basketball only. And I was like, okay, in theory, in this day and age, you're behind the 8 ball here because you spent half of your time devoted to basketball and not all of it, which means your skill set, development, and a lot of things have to get better. And so as a freshman, he came in and he worked and you could see some things there, but you could see there's some things that he needed to get better at. And so he played some minutes and he was pretty good. And then his sophomore year, he made a jump and you're just, whoa. But he wasn't going to beat Brady Dunlap, Robert Hinton, Trent Perry, Nicholas Amenya, Jacob Huggins, Landon, like the guys that were in front of him were better. And that's just what it was for that period of time. And so I had to sit down with him and his family, and I said, hey, look, he's going to play JV and he's going to play the whole game and he's going to play on the perimeter. He's going to get better at doing the things that I think he needs to do to be a productive varsity basketball player. But he's going to practice with us every day with the varsity. And this is what I think he needs. And they never questioned it. Maybe they didn't agree with it, but it was never like presented to me as though it was this is a bad move. It was like, we understand, you're the coach, let's do it. And I know Isaiah struggled with it. And I said to Isaiah, Isaiah, you're moving up at the end of the year. You're going to be a varsity guy for 3 years. But I need you to get better because we lose Brady, Jacob. And next year as a junior, you've got to be a big minutes guy for us. And I think it was tough, but it's translated now. There are D1s knocking on his door. And I really believe like whatever school gets him is going to get an all league guy by his sophomore year. And I just think, does that happen sitting on the bench as a sophomore and watching other guys play? Probably not. It happens because you were dependent upon to be a guy for a year. But then you got your butt kicked every day in practice and continue to come back and work and kick some butt yourself. And I just think the individual player development plans play a huge role in all of that.
It just strikes me, it's probably more of a college coach question, but it's like, what's the value of seeing someone like that develop over time and develop at that rate over time and being able to forecast what they're going to be in 2 years? And I
Totally.
think a lot of youth sport has lost that focus. It's immediate, and that's all we care about, not what could they be in 2 years.
The monetization of it all creates avenues for parents to get the answers they want, regardless of process and facts at times, right? He should be, and this should be, and they're not, and I would, and this is what, and all that's great, but we're with him for 2 hours every day. If he could, he would, and if he would, he will. So I think that's a big thing. But also for college, listen, the fact of the matter is a high major program coming off of a 25 win season is one sub 500 year away from being let go. And I think that's a scary thing. So what am I going to do? Am I going to go get an Isaiah Carroll who might not be here for 2 years? Or am I going to go get somebody in the portal and okay, that they're mine? I think those questions are up for debate and very nuanced, but with it being 15 scholarships now, I don't believe you can have 15 guys who all think they should play. I think you have to build in 15 guys, a roster of 15 guys who understand where they're at, and then you have a chance.
So I want to get into this because I think it's such a huge part of what you do. And you referenced it a few times with some small-sided games and player development type stuff. But talk to us a little bit about your methodology for teaching players to read screens, make decisions. What I've noticed watching your teams is there tends to be a little bit more patience than what some other players might do on some other teams. And you've obviously created that environment for them to be able to make a decision with patience.
Yeah. So I think that starts in the springtime in our offensive practices where we're, you know, 4 out, one in, three, 5 out, just different shapes and creating certain principles and rules, but also drilling those things in a skill development role. A lot of our shooting isn't just, hey, stand still shooting, it's movement shooting. Hey, we're tight curl replace shots. Hey, we're tight curl replace off of that, and then we're going to play to a get, and boom, we're moving. And now, as we start to build that up into no dribble, one dribble, two dribble, three dribble, it becomes so much more fluid. We'll also add different rules. So if we feel like, hey, we're struggling defensively and it's a little too easy, hey, let's get a full swing before we do that. But I need 3 different actions as we swing the ball into how we're going to score. And just creating different thought processes into how we're moving and reading and reacting. It's the foundation of what we do. And also, it's in our drills. We'll play 3-on-3 in tight spaces inside the 3-point line. We'll do those things just to continue. And here's the rules: 3 passes before you shoot. Any layups, good. No switching. Okay, now we're switching. And just doing those drills that continue to enhance movement-based read and react.
That's a great example of using constraints and being able to change it and not do the same thing every day. And that's what I imagine. Like, even though you probably have some daily vitamins or some things that you
Totally.
do all your day, by and large, your practices sound like they're very adaptable. You referenced, hey, we need to be better at this because we saw it in a game.
Yep.
And we go and we figure it out and that type of thing. So, talk to us about your adaptability as a coach within practices and practice design.
Yeah, it's not about me. It is only about getting our guys better and preparing them for whatever's to come. We have a list of different defensive coverages, different types of offenses we can see. And so within our shell, within our offensive breakdowns, we're going to be very specific. Hey, it's flex offense. So this is how we guard this in shell and go through it. The continuous ball screen. Same thing with on the offensive side. Like, hey, this is a blitz coverage. What do we know? Hey, they're trapping up. What do you do when your man leaves you? And just continue to enhance those and create days in which we're building up as opposed to just doing the same thing and then saying, oh, this happened now we got to work on it. Or even waiting until the day before a game, they like to blitz, so this is what we're going to work on the day before. No, we've got that foundation down. So now when we address it, I ask our guys, what are we looking here? What are we trying to do here? And doing that within film breakdown too, I think is critical. I don't lead the film all the time. Our assistants will lead it so that they're hearing different voice, and then our players will lead it. And hey, talk to me. What are we expecting from this team? Blah, 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 blah. Great. Okay, what are things we like to do? Hey, what are our trapping spots? Block, elbow, top of the key. Great. Okay, great. So we know these things are coming, right? Talk to me about spacing. Hey, anytime the middle is vacated, we got to get to the middle, flash, replace. Great. And just continue to make it theirs as much as possible. But also, I think laying that foundation down in the fall. We are very selfish in the summer. It's just us. Like, here's our principles. Here's what our principles offensively and defensively. Like, we're not worried about you. Like, whatever. You want to win the Section 7 tournament, post it, great. Go for it. We need to get better. In the fall, now it's okay, let's start building. Let's create these building blocks and get better at the things we need to get better at. And I think that's critical to preparation.
It's such a great point, just talking about selfishness in development. And I share that with kids before every camp or every player development stuff I do is this is your selfish time. This is your
Totally.
time to get better.
Totally.
And what you're going to do with your coach, etc., that's later. And I love that you bring that to your program and you bring that to life.
Yeah, no, it's been really good, and I think it's created ownership for our guys too. Like, hey, coach, tell me to be selfish. Like, he never says that. Like, all right, let's go.
We always phrase selfishness as a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing when it comes to your own development. I know you also emphasize emotional development and talk to us about a little bit of that, developing leadership, emotional skills, etc. Those specific structures that you put in place to be able to help your players grow.
Yeah, the number one thing for us is everybody's treated the same. Everybody's different, but everyone's treated the same. There's a standard, and the standard is the standard. And so I think if you came and watched a practice and you closed your eyes, I don't know if you think I was yelling at Nick or our 13th guy, because they're both held to a standard that they need to do certain things at a certain level, and it's non-negotiable. So I think that creates a foundation of trust. Hey, it's not just about this guy. Now, player B may not handle me yelling at him very well, and I need to pick him up after. Where player A, we're moving on. He knows. And so that's on me. Understanding my players, I think, is critical. We have a sports psychologist now, which I think every school should probably try and have somebody part-time, full-time. We have a full-time one, and we don't do things with her as a team because I feel like we use up their time too much as it is. But I encourage them to go spend one-on-one time with her and just talk. And then I'll do my weekly check-ins with her and just try to get a feel for, hey, where are we at? But I also check in with our strength coach. I check in with our trainer. How are our guys? How are they doing? And they're willing to tell me, you going hard today? Yeah. He goes, can you pull back a little? Yes, I can. Yeah, and so those are some mechanisms. The other thing we do is we have an app that our players fill out every morning that gives us a range of where they're at, and it's 6 basic questions. How did you sleep? Did you eat breakfast? Did you eat dinner? Where you're at right now? How do you feel? And from there, now we get something first thing in the morning that says, hey, you should check in on so and hey, hey, everyone's good. Keep it moving because kids are honest. They can't help themselves. So those are some of the mechanisms we use. I also make sure
You're
that
going to get asked anyways, coach. So what's the name of the app?
it's the Apollo. It's through the Apollo app that gives us basically our athletic training reports. There's a pop up there. Pretty cool.
It's great, and there's lots of evidence behind that. Just literally
Yes.
asking a player on a 5 point scale, a 10 point scale, how they feel. There's lots of support in that in physiology, etc. So that's
Yeah.
great, coach.
No, it's awesome. And then we do. You can naturally see certain players are drawn to certain assistant coaches. And once that sort of organically happens, I lean on our assistants heavily to like, how's he doing? Hey, I lit him up pretty good. Please go clean that up. Hey, I was hammering this guy today. Or hey, coach, I think today you need to love this guy a little bit. Got it. Understood. Even if he's not doing the things or not focused. So that programmatic connection is really important. And even for our lower levels, there is nothing that happens in our program that I'm not aware of. A parent is out of line in the bleachers. I'm aware of it. I'm addressing it. Not our lower levels. Hey, a kid's struggling. I'm aware of it. I go to our sports psychologist. I make sure our AD knows we're addressing it. It's just keeping everybody as connected and as close as possible and making sure they know they have people around them and people that are there for them for whatever they need.
Sounds like a great place to develop as a person and as a player. And that's really the goal for so many coaches I know. So,
Absolutely.
Coach, so many great stuff that you've shared here with us. But I got to ask, what's the mantra for this season?
So every year we do have one mantra that we present in our fall meeting. And a couple of years ago was relentless. We wanted to be relentless in our pursuit. Last year was unfinished because we won state the year prior. We didn't win our section. Felt like we had unfinished business. This year, earned, not given. And we wanted to keep it really simple. You earn the right to do this. You earn the right to play, compete, and do the things that we've been afforded the ability to do. It's not given just because somebody else did it or just because the team did it before you. And those are things. So go earn it every single day. Go earn the right to have a chance to compete again for a league championship, CIF championship, and state championship. And that's been our mantra. And hopefully we continue to follow suit.
The success speaks for itself, coach. Just tremendous job there with your program and all you've done in high school basketball and basketball. You know, in general, you reference USA basketball and everywhere else that you influence the game. And coaches, if you ever get a chance, great place to be able to go spend some time and learn some basketball. And I know he's a coach's coach, so he'll always share some time with you as well.
Absolutely.
So,
Email me anytime. Happy to have anybody come by.
yeah, awesome. And take advantage of that. Coach, thanks for sharing the game with us.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.